working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. Global food crisis warning. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres issued a stark warning today, describing a world facing a hellscape of hunger and heartache. Due to food insecurity, climate change, conflict, and rising costs are pushing millions deeper into poverty and hunger. The Indonesian elections, 205 million Indonesians cast their ballots today in a hotly contested presidential election. Frontrunner Prabowo Subianto faces questions about his human rights record, while other candidates vie for voter support. West Philippine Sea tension. The Philippines continues to condemn China's recent actions in the West Philippine Sea. Despite efforts to de-escalate tensions, regional stability remains a key concern. North Korea cruise missile launch. South Korea's military reports North Korea fired multiple cruise missiles today, marking another weapons test amidst rising tensions and aggressive rhetoric from Kim Jong-un. North Korea's intentions. Earlier today, Dr. Victor Cha moderated a special discussion with former ROK National Security Advisor Dr. Song Han Kim to analyze the North Korea's strategic calculus and potential actions in the coming year. And we'll hear key insights from this discussion after this. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres painted a grim picture today, describing a hellscape of hunger and heartache. Addressing the UN Security Council, Guterres emphasized the deadly links between conflict, climate, and food insecurity.
A global food crisis is creating a hellscape of hunger and heartache for many of the world's poorest people. And the climate crisis is accelerating with a deadly force, and last year was the hottest ever. Both these facts undermine peace. Empty bellies fuel unrest.
Guterres urged immediate action to break the deadly links between these issues.
At the same time, climate and conflict are two leading drivers of global food crisis. Where wars rage, anger reigns. Whether due to the displacement of people, destruction of agriculture, damage to infrastructure, or deliberate policies of denial. Meanwhile, climate chaos is imperiling food production the world over. Floods and droughts destroy crops. Ocean changes disrupt fishing. Rising seas degrade land and fresh water, and shifting weather patterns ruin harvests and spawn pests. Without action, the situation will deteriorate. Conflicts are multiplying. The climate crisis is set to spiral as emissions continue to rise, and acute food insecurity has been increasing year on year. The World Food Programme estimates that over 330 million people were affected in 2023, and it has warned of an acute deterioration in 18 hunger hotspots earlier this year.
258 million people face high levels of acute food insecurity, with over two-thirds due to climate and conflict.
Only a few years ago, the world believed we could eradicate hunger. Today, 1 in 10 people on Earth already suffers from chronic hunger. That number is unacceptable. If climate change accelerates, it will only become worse. Climate change is contributing to food insecurity and to conflict. Rapid, sustained action to cut greenhouse gas emissions and to increase resilience is needed now to help stop both from spiraling out of control.
We have heard it said many times. There is no food security without peace and no peace without food security. But now, more and more, we are dealing with the impacts of climate change. We have seen firsthand how conflict leads to hunger and malnutrition, and it is no coincidence that half of the world's hungry people live in conflict-affected zones. According to the 2023 Global Report on Food Crises, the main drivers of food insecurity and hunger around the world are conflict and climate change.
Indonesia's 205 million voters cast their ballots today with a cloud of controversy surrounding frontrunner Prabowo Subianto. Subianto, a former general under Suharto, leads the race despite accusations of human rights abuses during his military career. Polls favor him to avoid a runoff against rivals Anies Baswedan and Ganjar Pranowo, promising economic continuity and populist policies. However, his past casts a long shadow. Human rights groups fear a rollback of democratic freedoms, alleging his involvement in abducting activists under Suharto, while Subianto denies these accusations and faced only brief dismissal from the military. Concerns linger. Now, this election marks a significant moment, the fifth since Suharto's fall in 1998. Voters are grappling with balancing economic stability nurtured by incumbent Joko Widodo against Subianto's controversial past. Adding to the complexity, Subianto's running mate is Widodo's eldest son, Gibran Rakumbing Raka. And this move strategically utilizes Widodo's popularity while raising suspicion of improper influence. Widodo boasts high approval ratings for his economic stewardship, but questions whirl around potential favoritism towards Subianto. Legal experts and rights groups raise concerns about the use of government funds and changes to age restrictions, seemingly benefiting Raka's candidacy. Subianto denies all accusations, but the election outcome remains unpredictable as economic realities clash with unresolved historical baggage.
Ya, ini adalah pesta demokrasi. Kita berharap ini betul-betul menjadi pestanya rakyat dan juga berlangsung dengan jurdil, dengan luber, dan diikuti oleh seluruh rakyat Indonesia dengan kegembiraan, karena ini ada pesta rakyat, pestanya rakyat, pesta demokrasi.
Pak, yakin satu putaran nggak, Pak? Yakin satu putaran nggak, Pak? Masih yakin satu putaran nggak, Pak?
Kita tunggu bersama-sama.
Harapannya sih walaupun berbeda pilihan ya jangan saling menjatuhkan aja sih sebenarnya. Karena ya setiap orang kan juga punya latar belakang masing-masing dan memang punya pilihan juga masing-masing pada akhirnya gitu. Jadi ya menghargai aja.
The Philippines continues to publicly denounce China's aggressive actions in the West Philippine Sea. This despite recent de-escalation efforts. Philippine Coast Guard official Commodore J. Tariela emphasized their commitment to assertive transparency during a recent panel discussion. He also clarified that the transparency initiative remains unchanged even with a new institutionalized process for releasing information. Tariela downplayed concerns that transparency could escalate tension, saying, "It's them who is escalating the tension, and we are just on the receiving end." He highlighted a recent incident where a Chinese Coast Guard vessel dangerously crossed the bow of a Philippine ship, emphasizing the need to publicize such actions. However, information released to the public is now more controlled. It goes through a designated information working group before reaching the National Task Force West Philippine Sea and National Security Advisor for final approval.
Not everything we experience in the West Philippine Sea is openly released to the public. There are measured, there is a strategic objective for every news that we inform the public about. Something that we should measure to make sure that it will not be a result of panic or misinterpretation.
North Korea has launched multiple cruise missiles today, adding fuel to the fire of rising tensions in the region. Now, this latest test comes amidst increasingly aggressive rhetoric from leader Kim Jong-un and a series of weapons tests this year. Kim has taken several provocative steps in 2024, declaring South Korea an enemy, abandoning reunification efforts, and threatening war over even minor territorial disputes. Pyongyang has also ramped up weapons tests, showcasing cruise missiles, an underwater nuclear system, and a hypersonic ballistic missile. Today's launch saw several cruise missiles fired over the northeastern waters near Wonsan. South Korea's military says it is analyzing the missiles and has bolstered its surveillance to monitor North Korea's activities. Some experts believe these cruise missiles might be tested before being sent to Russia for use in the Ukraine war. This speculation stems from recent warming ties between North Korea and Russia, including a meeting between Kim and Putin in September. South Korea and the U.S. have accused North Korea of supplying weapons to Russia in exchange for technical support for their satellite program, which would violate UN sanctions. Unlike ballistic missiles, testing cruise missiles is not currently banned by UN sanctions against North Korea. Now, the Korean Peninsula remains a hotspot with concerns high about North Korea's potential actions in the new year. Earlier today, a special discussion moderated by Dr. Victoria Cha, or Dr. Victor Cha, explored these concerns, featuring Dr. Sung Han Kim, the former ROK National Security Advisor. Let's hear what Dr. Kim had to say. Now, Dr. Kim believes North Korea, despite its aggressive rhetoric and promises of war preparation, is unlikely to initiate a full-fledged conflict, expanding its nuclear arsenal, aiming to pressure the U.S. into negotiations for arms control and not denuclearization.
First of all, whether North Korea is ready to go to war, I don't think so. Even though Kim Jong-un promised to make the year of 2023 to make, to prepare a war and also expand its war capacity. Nevertheless, I think North Korea's strategic calculus is still the same, remains unchanged. If I elaborate North Korea's strategic calculus, that is as follows. Most of all, North Korea needs to increase its nuclear arsenal as many as possible and also complete its ICBM capability as early as possible. Then they believe United States will come to the negotiating table where North Korea is going to transform it into kind of a nuclear arms control negotiation, not denuclearization negotiation.
Achieving ICBM capability to potentially secure diplomatic normalization while retaining a minimal nuclear deterrent.
And then at the end of the day, North Korea will try to trade its own ICBM capability for North Korea-US diplomatic normalization, while keeping the minimum number of its own nuclear warheads for its own regime security.
Threatening war to test South Korea's faith in U.S. extended deterrence and influence U.S. policy.
This kind of strategic calculus is still the same, despite harsh and hawkish rhetorics of Kim Jong-un. If Kim Jong-un wages a war against the South, I think this kind of calculus is going to be disrupted because the United States will have to respond to the war in quite opposite ways against its own North Korea's strategic calculus. So that's why North Korea needs to threaten to go to war so that the South Korean people may suspect the U.S. extended deterrence and United States may respect North Korea's strategic calculus. That is still North Korea's game plan.
Dr. Kim also raised concerns about Russia potentially providing North Korea with advanced technology, including ICBM capabilities.
Honolulu in 2022, together with U.S. and Japanese counterparts, I myself emphasized Russian, North Korean military cooperation could take place in the near future.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were sharing the same concerns. Now it is happening.
Yes. Yes.
Due to many reasons, but what I'm most concerned about is ballistic missile cooperation. For example, Hwasong 18, which was test fired last July, is virtually the same as Russian ICBM, which is called SS-27. That means Russian technological assistance was made to DPRK. And also, after a couple of times of failure, North Korea successfully launched its surveillance satellite last November. I think Russian assistance was made for this part too. Another thing North Korea is expecting out of Russia is a higher resolution of the lens of the surveillance satellite, because the resolution level is so low at the moment, but North Korea is expecting high resolution lens out of Russia, because North Korea has no factories or facilities making those high resolution lens for surveillance satellites. That's one area, and the second one is nuclear powered submarine.
Yeah.
Which requires a Russian technology, so that North Korea may approach near to the west coast of the United States and launch cruise missiles, nuclear cruise missiles to the U.S. So that is another strategic kind of threat.
He emphasized the U.S. warnings to Russia and the potential consequences of such cooperation.
I believe already Washington is sending some warning signals or messages to Moscow so that Moscow may not cross the red line. Otherwise, U.S. homeland may be subjected to North Korean ICBM directly. And also Russia's point of view, if Russia crosses the red line and then complete all homework North Korea might be thinking of, then Russia has no card to play to the DPRK later on. So, and also Russia has to think of the scenario in which they can improve its relationship with the U.S. At some point in the future. So considering all of those factors, I believe Russia must be taking some cautious actions in terms of military cooperation with North Korea. But who knows?
Yeah.
Moving beyond the headlines closer to home, we turn our attention to stories shaping the world beyond the ASEAN region. New York City. A powerful winter storm nicknamed Storm Lorraine slammed into the northeastern United States, blanketing the region in snow and causing widespread disruptions. Heavy snowfall. New York City saw its first major snowfall in 2 years, with up to 8 inches accumulated in some areas. And other parts of the Northeast received even more, with Hampton Township in New Jersey recording 13 inches, and Chester, New York, seeing over 11 inches. Now there's travel chaos indeed. Airlines canceled over 1,200 flights, including nearly half of all departures from LaGuardia Airport and 1 in 5 from JFK. Schools across the region closed and public transportation was impacted. Now, there are dangerous conditions. Authorities warn warning residents to avoid unnecessary travel due to treacherous road conditions and gusty winds of up to 40 miles per hour. Coastal flooding, the storm is also expected to bring coastal flooding to some areas along the east coast. Millions of people were under winter storm warnings, with many rural areas experiencing significant travel disruptions. New Yorkers ventured out to enjoy the snow in Central Park, while plows worked tirelessly to clear roads. The storm is expected to continue to move north and east, potentially impacting travel and power lines.
We are expecting to see in Long Island and New York City 6 to 8 inches. The Hudson Valley and Catskills anywhere from 8 to 12 inches, and up to 18 in some places. Capital Region 2 to 6 inches. So greatest impact will be on tomorrow's commute downstate. Mayor Adams has already told schools they'll be working remotely, much to the chagrin of the children, and heavy wet snow is expected in Long Island. So we are in for this once again. People have been accustomed to a fairly mild winter, so take all the necessary precautions. Stay tuned to your news. If you can work remotely, that's great, because we want to make sure that our roads are clear for the plows, as always. So stay tuned for more details, but letting Mother Nature know she loves us by sending us a major snowstorm.
Now, Eastern Australia was pummeled by powerful storms, leaving one person dead, hundreds of thousands without power, and widespread damage to homes and businesses. The storm wreaked havoc across Victoria, dumping heavy rain and unleashing fierce winds. Gusts exceeding 150 kilometers per hour or 90 miles per hour tore through Victoria, toppling trees, damaging roofs, and knocking out power to over 500,000 homes and businesses. A 50-year-old dairy farmer tragically died after being struck by flying debris while on a tractor. Meanwhile, lightning strikes sparked multiple fires, including one in the Grampians region that destroyed homes in the town of Pomonal. At its peak, over 500,000 homes and businesses were plunged into darkness, with some still without power today. Authorities are now working to restore power, assess fire damage, and offer assistance to affected communities. As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angela. Stay in the news, because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.